Case file, Peter Falconio, the body that was never found on the night of July 14, 2001, on a nearly empty highway in Australia's Northern Territory. Peter Falconio and Joanne Lees pulled their orange Volkswagen Combi to the side of the road. They believed another driver was warning them about sparks from the van. Instead, according to the evidence later tested in court, that stop became a murder, an abduction, and one of Australia's most enduring missing body cases. 25 years later, the case has returned to the public record. Northern Territory Police released previously unseen investigation photographs on July 14, 2026, days after releasing footage of their final interview with the man convicted of the murder. The new material does not change the verdict. It shows why the file is still open. Peter Falconio's body has never been recovered. This is not a reconstruction. This is the timeline, the evidence, and the one question the conviction could not answer. Fact: Peter Falconio and Joanne Lees were British backpackers traveling through Australia. On July 14, 2001, they drove north from Alice Springs on the Stuart Highway. Their route ran through an isolated stretch near Barrow Creek, roughly 300 kilometers north of Alice Springs. The setting matters. At night, this part of the highway is immense and thinly populated. There are long gaps without homes, streetlights, or immediate help. The prosecution case would later place the attack on this road, after a man in a Toyota Land Cruiser Uda signaled for the Combi to pull over. Lees later said the driver told Falconio that sparks were coming from the van's exhaust. Falconio went to the rear of the vehicle. Then Lees heard a gunshot. At this point, separate the established finding from the account. The shooting itself was never captured on camera. But the jury later heard a chain of forensic and witness evidence, and convicted Bradley John Murdoch of murdering Falconio. According to Lees's evidence, the attacker turned on her. She was restrained with cable ties and tape, put into the Uda, and managed to escape. She hid in the scrub for hours before flagging down a road train. This is the first crucial evidentiary divide in the case. A survivor account explains the immediate sequence. Forensic evidence must test whether that account leaves a trace. In this case, it did. In the hours after the attack, police photographed Lees at the Barrow Creek Hotel. Those images, released again in 2026, show her shortly after she reached safety. Other police photographs show marks on her wrists. The material is not sensational evidence. It is corroboration, physical signs consistent with a person who said she had been bound. Police also recovered the orange Combi near the highway. It had been left off the road, not driven away with the couple. That fact narrowed the question. Falconio had not simply continued traveling. Something happened at the stop. The investigation began with a difficult problem: the alleged offender, the victim, and the missing body were all gone from the central scene. Police created roadblocks and followed a large number of leads. At one stage, investigators had around 2,500 persons of interest. Fact: Bradley John Murdoch emerged as a suspect because his vehicle matched the description of the Uda and because investigators were able to compare biological evidence. The most important forensic link was DNA. At trial, the prosecution relied on DNA connected to the makeshift restraints used on Lees, and DNA on her clothing. The jury accepted that evidence together with the survivor testimony and the wider circumstantial case. Murdoch was arrested in 2003. In December 2005, a jury found him guilty of Peter Falconio's murder, the assault of Joanne Lees, and her attempted kidnapping. He received life imprisonment. A conviction is an official conclusion. It means the court was satisfied beyond reasonable doubt that Murdoch committed the offenses. It does not mean every detail of the event became known. The missing body was the central gap then, and it remains the central gap now. Murdoch maintained his innocence and appealed. The convictions were not overturned. Now consider the question that often distorts cases like this: if there was a conviction, why does the public still call it a mystery? Because this is not a mystery about legal responsibility. The legal responsibility was determined in court. The unresolved mystery is practical and human. Where is Peter Falconio? For investigators, a missing body changes the nature of every later lead. There is no recovery site to search for. There is no burial location to examine. There is no final geographic answer for Falconio's family. In June 2025, when Murdoch was terminally ill, Northern Territory Police made a final attempt to obtain information. Body-worn camera footage from that interview was released on July 11, 2026. In it, officers ask him to consider what it would mean if Falconio were his own son, and whether he knew where the body was. Murdoch's response was blunt. He said he knew nothing, repeating the denial he had made for years. Weeks later, he died in hospital, without disclosing a location. Fact: this final police interview does not create new proof of what happened in 2001. It records the last known opportunity to obtain a direct answer from the convicted man. That opportunity ended without an answer. 3 days later, on the 25th anniversary of the attack, NT Police released previously unseen photographs from the investigation. The release included images of Joanne Lees, her restraint injuries, the combi, the crime scene material, and Murdoch. The police purpose was specific. Not to reopen the verdict, and not to invite internet speculation. They hoped the images trigger a memory in someone who saw, heard, or was told something years ago. That distinction matters. A hypothesis is not evidence. The internet has produced many theories about remote roads, accomplices, and search locations. None of those theories replaces the court record or a verified lead. The responsible position is narrower: the body has not been found, and police are still seeking credible information. The reward remains up to $500,000 for information leading to the discovery of Peter Falconio's remains. So the case file closes in two different ways. Officially, Bradley John Murdoch was convicted for the murder of Peter Falconio and the crimes against Joanne Lees. That finding stands. But the investigative file cannot fully close. A body has not been recovered. A location was not disclosed. And the newest release of evidence in July 2026 is an admission of that unfinished task. The final image in this case is not a courtroom. It is the Stuart Highway at night, a long road, a stopped orange van, and a missing answer that has outlived the man convicted of taking it. Sources for this case include Northern Territory Police material released in July 2026, ABC News, BBC News, and The Guardian. If you have information about Peter Falconio's remains, contact Northern Territory Police or Crime Stoppers Australia.